Go first this time. We are live from Kentucky. It's Friday night live.
Hello, everybody. Anna, I know you said that you are making supper. See you soon. I'm curious to know what you're doing for supper.
Anna was in early. Thanks for being here as always, Anna. Anna with 4-Day Homestead.
I was actually thinking about you earlier, Anna, and I was like, Anna is so faithful. She's so sweet. And I was thinking about how you work and then you still set this time aside for us. So thank you. All right, Courtney's husband. Hello.
Hey, Courtney's husband. Yeah, so we actually, we're working on digging a trench right now, like a 70-foot trench, so that we can dump our RV sewage into our septic tank. So we thought, I'm just going to make a little note before I forget. So we're going to try and make a lot more comments for people that watch later on. So we're trying to keep that in mind, not just what's going on live, because I would say probably 90% of our views come on a replay. People are watching this after, they can't catch the live. And we actually know a lot of people that we actually know, like in real life. And they always comment, you know, I watch the replay, and then they start asking us questions. I'm like, oh yeah, people really are watching this replay. So we're trying to, we have in the past, but we're going to make even more of an emphasis to put information on here that can be used as a reference. So this week we're going to be talking a lot about sheep on this episode.
Sheep Week.
We kind of, how would you say, stole that or fashioned that after Shark Week. And we're going to be doing a couple episodes. Well, we're going to try and do at least one episode a day next week on just sheep. So we're going to pick a different things like nutrition, pregnancy, rotation, and management, intensive grazing, sheep breeds, sheep maintenance, sheep what the sheep needs as far as minerals, diet, what types of grasses you have, what happens at different parts of the year, a lot of things that we've learned in year number 1. So this last week, it was actually on June 4th, marked our 1-year anniversary with sheep. We got our first 4 ewes on June 4th of last year. We got them from our neighbor, Mr. Willie. And I'll say right here out in public, those are the best sheep that we have. Mm-hmm. Those are the most healthy. They're producing the best lambs for us.
All things sheep.
They're really good stock. Hey, Jandera, welcome. Courtney's husband, good to have you. So we're going to be talking about sheep a lot. But as always, this is an open forum. So if you guys want to take this in another direction, gardening, homesteading,
random questions,
something that you think we might be able to help you with, go for it. Pop it up there in the chat. But we're going to fall back on...
What is IRA?
Somebody's spamming the junk out of us. All right, let's... we can take care of this little guy. Oh.
So I know Courtney's husband, you were saying that you were thought about getting... hair sheep at one day. I know that when Paul presented the idea, I was like, and then a lot of it is for, sorry, I'm distracted with him doing that. I've noticed that the sheep is phenomenal at keeping the grass short, and now I am a huge advocate of our little sheep. I love our sheep. Not only do they have purpose on the homestead, but they are also very picturesque, and they add to the beauty of it.
So the environment.
There's a word though. It's like
the ambiance.
Aesthetics.
Yeah.
Ambiance, one of those two.
The aesthetics would be like the look of it.
Yeah, like
the
just
overall look of it.
You look out and you see the little sheep, and our neighbors even tell us, you're like, oh yeah, you're the one with the sheep, and like I drive really slow around your property because of the little sheep, especially the babies. They are they're a
showstopper.
Yeah, they're a showstopper.
Yeah. people be driving 50 miles down the road and then come to
Yep, I want lawnmowers. Yes, and
5 miles an hour. So, Courtney's husband, I did make you a moderator. I know you know what that entails, taking care of the trolls with their spam. So, yeah, the sheep are very good. One of the segments we're going to be doing, I titled Sheep at Work. So, yeah, what she's talking about, what my wife's talking about is exactly right. We don't have a tractor. And at this point in time, we actually don't even have a riding lawnmower. A riding lawnmower is temporary out of service. So I tried to nail it out of habit. Yeah, right on. Price checking sheep fence. Right on. Yeah, so if you have questions on sheep fencing, if I had the dollars, if I had the money to do it, I know how I would set it up. So a lot of the information that I'm giving you, and one of my greatest references, and I'll write this right here in the chat. I don't know if you guys noticed, we are swapped. The AC is behind my wife's right quarter panel, and it was getting way too cold for me. I had built up a sweat from digging that trench, and I came in here and it was like extreme difference. So I wrote Greg Judy in there, of course.
You're always giving people hassle for writing in caps, and look at you.
I got a couple extra caps in there. Who was that the other day? Oh, it was Rusty Pepper. So Greg Judy has been a great reference. You'll find him on YouTube. I will be honest with you, it's going to take a little while to get information from his vlogs. He does a lot on cattle too. He raises polled. I don't know why I want to say Dexter. I don't really follow a lot of his cattle stuff because I don't have cows. So Greg Judy, awesome channel, like Jandera is saying. I believe Jandera is in. She's in the Shed Wars community, and she's also in Australia. Rotational grading land management. Exactly. Sheep are much better lawnmowers than goats. Well, that is, I guess that's a matter of opinion, personal preference. I do know that goats are harder to keep in, from what I've heard. Like one guy says just down the street where we get our hay from, he says the goat people will tell you goats are easier, and the sheep people will tell you sheep are easier.
I think they all have their pros and cons. Like,
yeah.
I know that the goats, they eat everything, but the problem is they eat everything. They're also, I know that goats tend to climb on stuff versus sheep are not as, I don't want to say active because they are active.
Jandera says they have goats. How many goats and what breeds do you have? That's interesting to know. We actually thought about getting maybe a goat or two and putting it in with the sheep just so we have a different type of grazer in with them. I was even thinking lately about putting a cow. If we could get a smaller breed cow, like a Dexter or something small like that. One of those 800 or 900 pound cows, and just to eat a different layer of the grass.
I think it'd be really cool to have a zebra. So they have, there's a farm not too far from here that has zebras, longhorn, something or another,
Texas Longhorns.
And then they have exotic animal auctions not too far from here. And I told Paul it would be the coolest thing to have a zebra, because I'll tell you what, every time that we pass by those zebras, I'm like, where are the zebras? So I would think it'd be cool to have a zebra.
Kicking the table there. Yeah, we're probably not going to do zebras, so it has to be somewhat justifiable. We gotta have something that it has a purpose. Everything on our homestead at this point has to have a purpose. Now, if we were running like a petting zoo, and it was an attraction that brought in a couple extra dollars, I think we could justify a zebra. But at this point, no zebras.
So Simply Jan said Greg doesn't live too far from us. That is cool.
Yeah, that is
I
cool.
think we're gonna have to pay Jan a visit. I have both sheep eat lower to the ground, and our grazers and goats are browsers.
Grazers and browsers. That kind of sounds the same to me. I'm trying to process that. So she's saying sheep are browsers. She's saying, let's see, let me read that again. Goats are browsers. Sheep are grazers. Okay, well, if you don't mind expounding on that a little bit, maybe you can bring some clarity to that. Courtney's husband says, can sheep handle eating poison ivy? I know goats can. Yes, they can. They'll eat poison ivy. They will eat creeping Virginia creeper, poison oak. I actually, about a week ago, I was thinking the same thing because all that stuff is starting to come up pretty heavy on the post and in all the fence rows. And, I stopped and I'm like, okay, are these guys going to eat this? And they don't like honeysuckle, any of the low-lying trees like the elms, the ash, we have quite a few, hackberries on our fence row, service berries, Chinese privet. Any of those the sheep will go for first. And then once all that low-hanging tree matter is gone, then they focus on the grasses and the clover, and then it's all those other little things. Then they're going to go after, and they'll mix and match. They're very in tune with their environment, and they know what their stomach needs and what they're going to get out of that particular forage. But as far as the poison ivy goes, they won't eat it right away. They have to be there a little while. So one of the things is management. So, depending on how long you're keeping an animal in that place, this is what we've learned with the sheep. Depending on how long you keep the sheep there depends on what you, at some point, are forcing them to eat that they do not prefer. So we are keeping about 23 sheep. 13 of those are full-grown sheep, and the rest are about half size now. Lambs. Yeah, that's right. So we have 10 lambs and 13 adult sheep. And we rotate those in 1/7 of an acre sections. So every day they're going to a new 1/7 of an acre. So in a week, they'll cover 7 days. Now, sometimes if the grass is thicker or we're not seeing enough of a hit on those, like goldenrod, there's some larger plants in there that it does take them a while, and they'll be in kind of little groves. Like you'll have patches where, I don't know this for certain, but I'm guessing that the soil is more conducive to different plants, the soil pH or whatever it may be, and those plants grow better in those areas. So when we get those areas that have plants that will shade out the grasses, we try and put them in there so that they hit that harder, if that makes sense. Sometimes if they don't hit it hard enough and they're just not eating it, I'll just move them on because they need to be eating something, and then I'll go back and I'll hit that with a weed trimmer. And usually it's a very small area. You're talking probably less than 10 by 10 or maybe at most 20 by 20. So just to knock those bigger plants down so that the sheep can, so that the grasses can grow. Because last year we had goldenrod and a lot of those bigger broadleaf, what they call forbs, Forbs. I'll write that in here. And the forbs are actually supposed to be about, they're supposed to be roughly 20% of their diet. So it goes 60%, about 50-60% grass, and then you probably have about 30% broadleafs, which is your clovers, plantain, dock, all those field broadleafs, dandelions, those smaller broadleafs, and then you have the forbs, and then you also in that you also have your foliage from like trees and shrubs, your vines, grapevines, honeysuckle, all of those other things come into play there. So there's a lot to talk about with sheep, and I have some notes. Let's see what's going on with the comment. It says, I took a cash job to cover permanent perimeter fence, but still need ideas for movable paddock. I'll do sheep. I have many goat. I've had many goats before. So, do you want to say something?
I say mini goat would be cute.
You got any water over there?
I have one over here. Go ahead and answer that question.
I've gone beyond my 20-minute talk time. I've noticed sometimes I do like Bible study or different kinds of talking things. And once I hit about that 20-minute mark, I'm only at 15 minutes and I haven't talked straight through. But I noticed like my throat starts getting all dry.
Yeah, he doesn't do a lot of talking. I'm the main talker.
Okay, so let's talk about 4-Day Homestead's little setup there for just a second. What Greg Judy uses is he uses fiberglass post. I don't know the exact dimensions of of the post. If I were gonna do permanent fencing, which you should do on your perimeter, which is what she's talking about, perimeter fence, permanent perimeter fence. So what I would do is I would do at least a 3-strand perimeter fence with a 12 gauge high tensile wire. I forget the rating of the wire. I want to say it's like 3,000 pound strength. I'd have to look that up, but it's the 12 gauge wire. And then I would use the fiberglass post because they last forever. There's a lot of benefits to the fiberglass post. I personally have not used them, but Greg Judy's used them for 25 plus years. So if you want more information on the post, he actually sells them. And Jan said she's in the area. If you go and pick them up, they're very, very, very cost effective. I know you're in Wisconsin, Anna. Greg Judy is in Missouri. It might be worth it. I don't know how far of a drive that would be, but I actually contemplated at one point loading up a trailer and going down there to pick up the post, just because it was so much cheaper that route. So you can buy those directly from him. I'm trying to remember. I want to say, I'm trying to think of his intro. Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy with Green Pastures Farm. So I think his website is greenpastures.com. If you Google Greg Judy website, you'll find his website, and he sells them directly off the website, and then you can contact him with that. So I would do the perimeter with the fiberglass post and at least 3 strands of high tensile wire. And then from that, you can divide off different paddocks. So you could use the fencing that we're using, which is like a Premier 1 fence, and you can divide off of that. Or you could use what he uses mainly is he uses a spool, and the spool itself, it actually has a way to be energized. So I have a spool, but it's a very low grade one. I was kind of experimenting. I didn't get the one that he had, and the actual poly, what is it called? Poly braid is not. I got it from TSC, and it's basically worthless. The sheep were just walking right through it. But what I was doing is I was setting up just a little miniature. I was breaking my 1/7 of an acre in half to see if I could get more intensive grazing on that, what would be then 1/14 of an acre. So I really don't recommend any of the poly braid from any of the TSC, unless you can find, I'm trying to think of the brand that he uses. I think it's Gallagher. I'm pretty sure it's Gallagher.
Comments,
oh, are the comments getting away?
Well, they're. Right.
So let me just finish up with the the fencing. I still need ideas for movable paddocks. So so what he does is then he ties into that perimeter fence, and then he creates divisions with the poly braid. And what he does, and a lot of this is training. One thing that you have to remember is that electric fence is not a physical barrier. It's a psychological barrier. So once the sheep see that and they understand this line of post has this wire on it and I don't get close to that, no matter what, it hurts. So there's a pain factor that's triggered and they don't want to go near it. Once they've got hit once or twice, they're going to stay away from it. So just to sum that up, I'd do that fiberglass with the 3 strands. But then as you train them, what he does is he goes from 2 or 3. I think he actually goes 3, 2, 1. But his inline goal is to get down to 1 poly wire, and that's all that there is. I've been to farms that have that setup, and it's crazy. Like, they're holding back hundreds of sheep with a wire that's like 1/4 of an inch thick, and the sheep just know I can't cross that. If I go near that thing, it's gonna hurt me. So there's posts that you have to put every certain between like 15 and 30 feet, depending on the length of your run, and your ups and downs. If you're going up a hill or something, you might have to put them closer together. But that makes it very movable. A lot of the moves that they do are under 15 minutes. Sometimes they're making moves, and it only takes like a half an hour. But that's the setup that if we started leasing a larger property, that is the setup that we would go with. And that's something that we've done a lot of research into, and we're actively shooting toward that. So the reason that we're raising our flock is to keep that enterprise growing. We don't want to just stick to whatever our property can handle and just sit at that. We're going to keep growing that and keep increasing that and allow that to become profitable. So let's see, it says some highs back and forth, and then I used to rotationally graze, sending goats through, followed by cows, followed by sheep, followed by chickens, and did amazing things. Last year we ran sheep and chickens, and we have a neighbor, and whenever he comes over, a lot of times he'll make the comment, I kid you not, he's probably said at least somewhere between 5 and 10 times, and I probably have only talked to him 20 times, but he's made the comment. He said, somebody at some point in time did a whole lot of fertilizing on your property. Now, when we got there, the hay experts in our area, the people that lease property and go and find and cut people's hay, and these are like the hay people. I mean, they literally hay thousands of acres of hay a year. So these guys, they had hayed our property a couple times in the years past. They looked at our property in the fall of 2019, which is about a year and a half ago, and they said, your property needs a ton of fertilizer and a ton of lime.
And we didn't have them come over to evaluate the property.
Yeah, they just came over because they stopped to chit chat and hang out. And they're like, this whole section, like this whole half of your property is junk. And it was. I mean, they weren't lying. And they said, the grass that's growing in here has basically no nutritional value. It's what's called broom sedge. And it's there's nothing that's going to grow in there.
Well, then to the previous renter had gotten it hayed a couple times. So that was the other reason they came over, just to say hi, dude, like nice to meet you. And then they wanted to know what we were doing with the property if one of them could do the haying. So they did say like, hey, we know that they had hayed it last year, and just so you know, look at this. And so that's how we got the evaluation of the hay.
Yeah, so they said that, and so we know that the quality of the forage, the quality of the grass that was on the property was not going to be very good. So we ran the chickens real heavy, and we kept the sheep moving last year. We had very little sheep at the very beginning. Like the first, we didn't get the sheep until June, but we started running the chickens. We just ran them in circles out there. They probably, at the end of the year in 2020, so from November, when we got here, November 2019 to 2020, the chickens probably went over every patch. This is in the chicken tractor. And there was 3 chicken tractors running constantly with meat birds, and another one had egg layers in it. So those 3 chicken tractors went over every patch of that grass and ground in that 3 acres of property. Actually, yeah, it's about 3.5 acres of property at least 3 times. So that I'm convinced was that fertilizer that my neighbor's referring to.
And you can see it too, like when he had run the tractors, and then sometime later where the tractors had run, you can see the soil, like the difference in it. And I remember at first they were like, what are those? And then we explained that they were chicken tractors, and they're like, okay. And they're like, aren't they kind of like small? And from the road, they do look short.
Yeah, they're only 2 feet tall.
And they're like, I think the chickens are like squashed. And then they like actually came out and were like hanging out with us. They're like, oh, wow, there's like tons of room. And the chickens have all this space, and they were constantly moving. So they got new bugs. And yeah, it was a really good setup. So how do you say this name?
Jandera?
Jandera said grazers
Eat grass.
Browsers prefer to eat above their shoulders.
Okay, that makes sense. And I mean, I've seen goats before, and I know how. Oops.
You keep doing that.
So yeah, goats will go for a lot of brush and anything they can get to that's low on trees. And actually, our sheep do that. Believe it or not. They act very much like goats. They will get on top of each other's backs to get up higher. They'll get up on the trees. They'll get up on fences. They'll get as high as they can possibly get. I think a lot of people underestimate. Man. I think a lot of people underestimate the value and the importance of sheep eating brush, trees, vines, all those things, because you have to remember that those are much larger plants that have much larger systems in them. They have a much larger root system. So they're picking up a lot more minerals than just these smaller grasses and broadleaf plants.
Let me get your water.
They're going, I'm gonna take a sip of your, man, I'm shaking this like a dang earthquake in here. So they're picking up a lot of those things that that the smaller plants are not. And I'm gonna throw a word on the screen here and in the chat. Now Nathan Kakis came in. My wife went to go grab something. Jandera says, at one point on my previous property, I had 8 sheep, 15 goats, 4 miniature cows, and hundreds of chooks, which is what they call chickens in Australia. 20 ducks on, dang, that is pretty intensive. On 3.5 acres. That's impressive. So one thing that Courtney's husband says, I'm wrangling chickens right now. Sometimes I think Courtney has too many chickens. It's like a scary movie with all these chickens chasing me. Yeah, I could see that. We've raised our chickens from chicks, and they have been really docile. People come over and they're like, man, your roosters aren't chasing me. The chickens aren't running from me. And the kids have handled them a lot, and they're very people friendly. I see Brabanios record. The name is Bluezazo. Bluezazo. Welcome, Bluezazo. Good to have you. It's only a 12-hour drive. I'm going down Southwest Missouri in July to see my family. Well, maybe you can make that work out. That would be pretty neat if you could. Freedom Foods Farm has some great videos on this. Yeah, I've seen that too. Freedom Foods Farm is down in Texas. I follow him quite a bit. Hey, Mr. Beam Me Up, Mr. Scott, a.k.a. that guy who's going to send me some seeds. I've been going back and forth with Beam Me Up, Mr. Scott. Yeah, Jan, thanks for writing that. Hit the thumbs up. Got to run. Oh, bummer. Well, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Courtney's husband.
Yeah, Courtney's husband's another faithful one that always comes on every week. So thank you, Courtney's husband. I don't know if you're still on or not, because I know that the live chat kind of got pushed back. But thank you for joining us the time that you did do and for commenting.
And Ben Peters is in here. He says, what's up to Ben Peters, a.k.a. DC. I say to you, what's up? How come you haven't come pay us a visit? We're only 2 hours away. BP, DC. Brian Lowe's Hills Homestead.
Hello.
I got to tell Brian something. I love you more. He always ends his videos with, and don't forget, I love you. He's a very loving person. Great person, Brian. Down to earth, great guy. I'd like to meet Brian one day. That'd be cool. I'm pretty sure Brian is in Wisconsin also. Or is he in, I want to say Wisconsin. Brian, where are you at? Is it Ohio? I can feel the love from here, Brian.
We're not used to this arrangement. It's like you're bumping me. You're all over the place.
I'm usually on that side. Iowa, that's right. Iowa. I knew you were just above us somewhere. Yep, got my seeds out a couple days ago, says Mr. Scott. They should be there soon. Yeah, we can't wait. We'll have to put them in the ground. We've been planting a bunch of seeds lately. My daughter kept bugging me. She's like, we got to get the watermelons in the ground. It's going to be a long time before they start producing watermelons, and we got to get them in soon. So this last week we got we planted a bunch of watermelons.
And you guys went out there early too. You guys set an alarm.
Oh yeah, we had to get out early.
What does BRB mean? I know.
Be right back.
Oh, is that what that means? Because I know that Simply Jen wrote that earlier. I'm like, there it is again. What does that mean?
We'll be right here.
I'm not one of the cool kids.
You gotta learn your acronyms.
Yeah. I know LOL.
Yeah. View videos. Yeah, hey, you guys, if you haven't checked out Beam Me Up, Mr. Scott, check him out. Am I running over your foot?
You keep smashing me.
Check out
Abuse.
Beam Me Up's channel. He does some kind of, what would you call that? Kind of some niche plants. Borderline exotic. He has some cool peppers, peach peppers, hillbilly potato tomato plant. I'm looking forward to that one. See what's going on with that. And check out Beam Me Up, Mr. Scott's channel. He's a supporter of our channel, and we do everything we can to support those who support us. So give him a look over. Tell him the Conrad Homestead sent you over. Let's get back to those tannins. What is the importance of tannins in plants, and why are they? Why are we talking why are we talking about tannins when we're talking about sheep? Thanks for the water.
You're welcome.
Tannins. Anybody? Anybody know why tannins matter?
It's a funny word.
So a lot of trees, a lot of plants have tannins in them, and tannins are what. So like if you took an acorn, like from an oak tree, you took that acorn and you tried to eat it, after it ripened up, it went from its green phase to its brown phase, and it's dried out. Still, usually at that point, you can't eat it because it has so many tannins in it. So what they would do is they would take a sack of those acorns and they'd soak them in like a river, or they'd soak them in a like a bucket of water, and then they'd switch out the water because those tannins would leach out. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So Anna says the tannins change the pH in their gut. So the tannins are the natural, and you're not going to find this in a lot of places. And when you start having parasite problems and your sheep start looking like skeletal figures, and they start getting parasite overload, everybody's going to say, have you given them dewormer? You got to deworm them. You got to deworm them. They got worms. The worms are killing them. The worms are eating them. Parasite overload. And you're going to hear all this stuff, and give them dewormer. Okay. Well, the problem is it's just like taking antibiotics when you're sick. Well, not only then at that point are you killing the harmful worms, parasites, and all those things in their rumen, in their guts, you're also killing the good stuff. So then you're basically becoming the chemist that's taking over. So then at that point, you have to continually do that. So not only is it time consuming, it costs money, and it's not beneficial. It's not natural. But if you can get these animals where they can get at things that are have high tannin counts, I guarantee if you Google what plants can sheep eat, or how do I get rid of parasites naturally, you're going to hardly find anything. But I mean, you'll probably get like 100 matches, and you'll have to sift through theirs, and you hardly find anything. But if you look for plants that have high tannin counts, you'll find that you can target where those plants are in your property and pass the sheep through those areas. So along our fence rows, one of our, what a lot of people would call negative, invasive, bad, demonic plants is honeysuckle vine. Honeysuckle has super high tannin counts. It's a great pH catalyst that kills parasites in the sheep's gut, and it's high in protein.
Isn't that also what we use as the privacy fence on that one side?
Yeah.
I like that stuff because it, like I said,
over by the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a privacy fence to me. It's a green, and it's pretty much green all year round.
Yeah, it's very true. So that's something that most people would say rip out immediately. Get rid of that stuff, eradicate it. And actually, when we went farther north, when we were visiting a Red Silo homestead they're farther up in northern Kentucky. Actually, they're probably still considered central Kentucky because they're an hour and a half away from us, basically directly north of us. But they have honeysuckle bushes And I forget the name of the bush. I looked it up. It's like Annonia or something like that. But it's the bush variety of honeysuckle. And the fence rows are covered with this. Like almost every property has a hedge of these honeysuckle bushes. So that would be awesome. We have one of those on our property, and it's up by the tobacco barn. And I'm actually trying to find a way to reproduce this thing, to get the seeds off it. In the fall, they get these little red berries on them, and I'm hoping to get some seeds off of them and start spreading them throughout the property. I'd like to actually add a row that goes from north to, am I picking your nose? I'm sorry. I'd actually like to, red aronia bushes. That sounds right. Is aronia variety of honeysuckle? Aronia sounds right. So what I would actually like to do is I'd like to put a row of that from north to south, and the row would probably be, man, what would that come out to? Probably 2,000 or 3,000 feet of that bush. I think it's just such a beneficial plant. And the nice thing is, once they get established, like the one that we have, and we take the sheep right past this one, and they browse all over. It's browse, right? Graze down, browse up. See, I learned a new word from Jandera. Thanks, Jandera, if you're watching this later on. So they go and they browse on these honeysuckle bushes. But the nice thing is, they're like, they'll probably go up about 9 feet. So they take off the bottom 4 feet. So they're not killing it. No, they probably go up about 5 feet. Yeah, they go up about 5 feet. It's usually about up to my shoulders. And then because there's still like 50% of the plant still left on the top, then it can grow back. And then because they defoliated all the bottom, that just pops back up after about a month. And then when they come back through in about 45 to 60 days, it's there all over again.
And I know that you're saying that reminded me of our son David. He likes to give them a little bit higher up.
Oh, yeah.
The kids do, all of them, but David in particular. And the minute that the sheep see him going towards the tree, they like all go. And I was like, what's going on? And they all like hovering and they're like nudging on him like, hey, David. And sure enough, he'll climb on the tree or he'll pull a branch and he'll begin to yank, and they all start eating. And it's so funny to see them that they're starting to recognize, like, this kid gives us those top branches.
Yeah. If there's a rustling in your hedgerow, it's probably David. Yeah, but they love when he does that. So I'll have to look up chokeberries. I don't know that I've heard them referred to, but I think we're talking about the same thing.
And this is
it sounds like it. Yeah, about 10 feet tall.
They were planted naturally by birds.
Yep.
Who, we get a lot of really cute birds.
I wish the birds would plant some more of them around. That'd be cool. So we're about 3/4 of the way through this live stream. What are they talking about? We were talking about talked about tannins. So yeah, like I said, one thing we've really learned is the importance of getting them to browse on those things that are high in tannins. That's really going to help you out. And that doesn't have to be every single day. I mean, I don't know the exact length of time you could go in between, but there's times where we're on grass and broadleafs, and they'll get a little bit of like trees that are coming up in the pasture that are probably 4 or 5 feet tall, that mow down.
What does pine needles do? I know that David loves to give him pine needles.
Yeah, so pine needles are slightly different. So pine needles aren't as high in the tannins, but they just have an astringent to them that kills. It's an antibacterial. Like there's actually teas that you can make with pine needles. Make sure you do your homework. Don't just say, "Oh, I saw some guy on YouTube talking about pine needles. I'm gonna go make some pine needle tea." Make sure you're finding out the right way to do it. As a disclaimer, I don't take any blame for anything you make with your pine needles, but there's a pine needle tea. We will give the sheep pine needles from time to time. Hey, William Conrad. So actually, I just found out that my cousin William Conrad and my dad William Conrad both have YouTube accounts. So I'm assuming this is my dad, because the other William Conrad had a profile picture on it, and I think my dad's just has the W. Hi, Dad. So we'll get the pine needles. We actually we have 2 pine trees on our property, but the lowest branches are probably 12 feet up in the air. They've been trimmed up over the years. There's a lot of plants growing under them, but where we get them is across the street. So the pines that we have on our property have actually kind of reseeded down into the lower creek area, and they're starting to spread out. So in our probably 5-mile diameter, there's probably realistically there's probably only 100 pine trees, and most of those are right around us. There's not a lot of pine trees. Most of the trees around us are your hardwoods. The big trees are your oaks, ashes.
And David loves to climb those pine trees, and it reminds me of The Sound of Music. In that one scene where they're driving and there's like kids in the tree and they're like singing and dancing, and then you realize like they were his kids. Like sometimes I'll be walking, I'm like, there's a kid, that's my kid, like get off that tree. It's just, he's like happy as a little clam, but it's more me just being concerned of him getting too high, because you know how it is, like he's just going and grabbing some and he's not realizing he's going higher and higher, and so I have to kind of rope him back down, like you're going too high. So, beam me up, Mr. Scott said pine straw is great at lowering pH, acidic. If you are growing raspberries and blueberries, they really love it.
Yeah, we do that quite a bit actually with our raspberries. We'll put a handful of pine needles, and then we'll kind of make a pine needle mulch around them to to make the soil more acidic. That's a good tip. Thanks, Mr. Scott. Beam me up, Mr. Scott. BM. I was trying to see if there was an acronym in there, but anyhow.
Anna was saying spruce.
Spruce tip tea. Good for humans. Yeah.
Half a cup a day.
I've come across that in my research a little bit. I've never tried it. I have to try it.
Dandelion tea too. People drink. I hear a lot of people talking about dandelion tea.
There's a lot of beneficial nutrients in dandelion. A lot of people have told me that when they grew up, these are usually older folks, is that they had like dandelion salads, or almost like a dandelion soup that they would make. I guess it would be kind of a tea, but it more sounded like they added it to a soup, like it was like a vegetable soup, but then they added dandelions to it. It was something that I wanted to talk about. So William, my dad never verified if that was his account. Dad, is that you? William Conrad, hello. We see your hello, and we have questions for you. Okay, so oh, another thing, that's what I wanted to bring up. So we always keep, oh, it is my dad. Okay. So we always keep our sheep supplied with sheep mineral, which has salts in it and it has various minerals. But another thing, we only have 2 supplements that we make sure we have supplied free choice all the time. One of them is that sheep mineral. We do just get that from Rural King, which is like a Tractor Supply company. Sheep mineral. You can't use goat mineral or any other mineral because it could have copper. Copper, a certain amount of copper won't kill sheep, but you have to be careful with overloading copper. So don't think that I'm saying sheep cannot have copper. They do need a certain amount of copper, but certain minerals, goat minerals in particular, will have higher doses of copper than they should have. So sheep mineral and sodium bicarbonate, which is commonly known as, fill in the blank. I'm going to leave that open. What is the common name for sodium bicarbonate?
Now, if you're running animals right after each other, though, you do have to be careful with the chickens, right? With these minerals.
Yes. Yeah. We have had a couple of times, we had a surplus of roosters. And if you ever want to get rid of roosters,
Beat me up, Mr. Scott.
beam me up and William Conrad have a tie. Baking soda, that's right. So we free source the sheep mineral and the baking soda. And the baking
Ding, ding,
soda,
ding. Good job, guys.
good job. The baking soda allows the sheep, and we didn't learn this until recently. I mean, this was only within the last, how long have you been seeing that on your shopping list? Probably only 2 or 3 months. I keep adding baking soda. We'll get those little, what are they, 1 pound or 2 pound little boxes of baking soda.
I'm trying to remember when it is that I had to get a stick and be like, back off my baking soda. Because the kids are like, ooh, baking soda, Mom. No. This is my baking soda.
All baking soda is free game. So the baking soda is a pH balancer. And when they get overloaded, they can take that baking soda. I can't tell you the exact science behind that, but I have noticed that it does greatly help them. And especially when the grass is very young and very wet, very green, when you have that very tender grass that's high in moisture content that goes right through them, they definitely need that mineral because they'll be losing a lot of salt content. Now, if we'll talk about manure and what manure should look like in one of our Sheep Week episodes, because one of the very good indicators of how your sheep are doing, or a lot of livestock, is to look at kind of like Gatorade. I would say the minerals are like the Gatorade. They resupply the salts. The sodium bicarbonate or the baking soda it's just a pH balancer for them. Now anything with carbon in it is going to be very neutral, and it actually acts kind of like a buffer. So like if you were to have like a poison, like you ingest some poison, a lot of times what they actually do is they give you charcoal, which is super high in carbon, and that absorbs that. It extracts it. So the carbonate part of that sodium bicarbonate does a very similar thing. It basically is a pH buffer that allows, or I should say that does not allow extreme pH swings, so that they don't go too acidic or too base, but it is more of a base, so it brings the acidity down.
And where do you have that? Do you have it like in a bucket or?
Yeah, it's just in a little can, like a little galvanized can that they can get at, and it's not a whole lot.
So we were talking about the minerals and roosters.
Right. So we had some extra roosters last year, and I wanted to get them out. When you get too many roosters in one area, sometimes it just gets messy. They get, they have to.
Well, they didn't fight when it was just all the males. It's when you had the hens in there, or they saw the hen. That's
a good point.
So you had to decided to leave like a rooster in with the hens, but then you took the rest of them over there with the other ones, so there wouldn't be fighting.
Yeah, exactly. So we took some of those extra roosters and we put them in with the sheep. We're like, well, we were at that time, we just had the Premier One poultry net, and we had 2 lengths of 160 feet, and that's what we were keeping the sheep in. We were like, well, that's kind of like a dual purpose net, and we can do chickens or we can do sheep in it. Now, if you're just doing sheep, I would highly recommend not using that because it's way too cumbersome. It gets heavy. It's bulky. If you do get that, get the shorter length. Get the 100-foot length. Do not get the 164-foot length. I'll never again. In fact, I may very soon be cutting those 164-foot lengths down in half so that they're more manageable. So they have 2 82-foot lengths or 2 80-foot lengths. But getting back to the roosters in there with the sheep, the roosters, a couple times we were seeing they were getting their combs, the things on their head, they were starting to get black, and then their wattle was getting black, and we're like, what are these guys doing? Like, what's going on with them? And then we'd see them on the floor, and they're just like paralyzed, like their bodies have shut down, and they're just like, what's going on with these guys? So after about the 3rd or 4th one day we went out there and we saw them in the sheep mineral. And they're just sitting there pecking at the sheep mineral, eating it like it's food. And so we realized you have to have a way to keep the chickens out of the sheep mineral.
Yeah, we even I remember at one point we put the roosters over here, and then you gave the sheep just a little bit amount to see if they would eat it, so that way the roosters wouldn't get it. And them dumb roosters is the one thing that they can't have. They're like, I must eat it.
Yeah, we lock them out of the mineral, and they're sticking their heads through the little things to get at the mineral, and they're eating the mineral. But yeah, we learned the hard way on that.
So just as
if you're running the sheep, or if you're running chickens anywhere where they can get access to the mineral for whatever reason, maybe they think it's grit, maybe they think it's some kind of feed. If you're feeding them a pelleted feed or something,
some kind of worm.
I don't know what they think it is, but they'll eat enough of it to kill it. So just be aware of that.
Be ye warned.
Ye have been warned. Yeah, so baking soda is a buffer. It's kind of like Tums. I'm pretty sure the base of Tums, I'm pretty sure is sodium bicarbonate.
It's funny because Anna wrote that, and I was like, hey, I could see the little sheep I need a little bit of this.
Yeah, but the nice thing is they know when they need it, so they'll eat it. We've got a couple things on here that I really wanted to add to this video. They will be in the Sheep Week things. Maybe I should just save them for that. So if you haven't caught on to this yet and you're still at this point, we thank you guys for watching. We're going to wrap this up here in a minute or two. Mm-hmm. If you're watching the replay, we're going to run a Sheep Week series this coming week. We're going to talk about different aspects of raising sheep, what we've learned in our first year. So just to kind of summarize our operation, we're on an 8-acre farm. We have 23 sheep that we rotationally graze, that we very high it's very high management intensive grazing. So we're moving them every day or at max every 2 days. So just kind of quickly to add the benefits of that, and that's to keep them on fresh grass that is very high in energy. They're just pulling off the top sections of that grass. They're not getting down lower into the first of all, it's not affecting the plant as harshly, and they're not getting into the darker lower areas, the bottom 2 or 3 inches where most of the parasites are. So the parasites are actually killed by the sunlight. The majority of the time, the sunlight is sterilizing that top portion. But if the sheep have to, if they're forced to overgraze an area, they will eat lower than they really want to or should eat. So we manage intensively graze them. We're constantly moving them. That lightens their parasite load. That gives them more high energy plant matter. There's more sunlight in those plants because those plants have had a chance to regrow. They're not just like some of the neighbors that we have. They're just basically open pasture. So the sheep or cows, a lot of it's cows, they'll just go through and they'll just eat up every little inch of growth that comes up. Every time there's a new little bit of growth, they just cut it off. A little bit of growth, they cut it off. So those plants, if you don't know this, most of the time, the plants regulate. I just spit. Did you see that? Most of the time, the plants are regulating their root lengths according to what is above ground. So they have to kind of balance that out. So as the plant grows above ground, then the root system grows. But then the plant gets cut off, so then the root system, it Juicing with Jay. Hey, you caught the last 1 minute. Welcome. Better late than never.
Yeah.
And you're here.
But then, really quick with that, what you're saying about having them rotating intensively, that's seasonal, right?
Yeah. So when the grass, and this is one little quote that I've picked up. When the grass is growing fast, move the sheep fast. When the grass is growing slow, move the sheep slow. So the longest period of time that we ever want the sheep on an area is 10 days. You're kind of pushing 12 days because of the parasite cycle. If you can keep the sheep off of only in an area for 10 days, you shouldn't have any problems with parasites. So when the grass is growing very, very slow, and you may have to, if you, and our goal is to do this, if you are able to stockpile enough grasses over winter, you can keep the sheep there, and they can stay there for up to 10 days. And you'll have enough stockpiled grass because you haven't grazed it all the way down all the time. You have enough stockpiled grass that they can eat that through the winter. So if you're moving, let's say you have, we have 1/7 of an acre portions that we're normally working with. Let's say we have 30 of those, just to make it real easy. We do have a little bit more than that. I think we're right around 45. But so if we're taking and moving through those in the summer, or when the grass is growing fast, if we're moving through those every single day, by the time we get through 30 days, then we're going back through that again. But if we're only going 10 days and we have 30, if we have 30 of those sections, then, depending on how much that can support and how much livestock you have on there, those, if that area can support 10 days, depending on how tall your stockpile is, we're going to try and get up to somewhere around 2 to 3 feet at the end of the fall. So and we're there in a lot of places.
Yeah.
So we're actually kind of behind. The grass is growing faster than we can keep up with. So we actually have a stockpile right now. So we're trying to catch up. So what we do and what we've learned is if you can't get to that spot and your grass is lower and it's at the green phase and it hasn't already gone into seed and stem, just skip that. Just skip that seed stuff and go to back to where your grass is greener and more vibrant, and that you have between probably about 5 and 10 inches. Like a lot of our grasses have already gone up to 24, even 36 inches. Like I'm walking through grass and it's up to my chest in a lot of places. So
we have to point out you're 6'4".
Yeah, so it'll be up to here on me.
Yeah, there's a hobbit in that grass. All right, so we are way past that 1 hour mark. So the point is with saying all that about the grass is if you can stockpile it, you should be able to. We'll see this year. Like I said, we were starting off with some pretty rough conditions coming into that first year. And this year we should be able to stockpile quite a bit of actually quality forage. Like last year it was pretty junky, and we probably had to get into hay about a month into it. We were thinking, oh, we can get 3-4 months out of this. Another thing we learned is we were thinking, hey, Eric, I was just thinking about you because Juicing with Jay reminded me of you, the name. I was like, where is Eric? So here he is. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Eric. Right on. Good to see you, Eric.
Yeah. So I know that one thing you have said to me one time, a few times, is that right now we're growing soil. And I remember when it's kind of in the lines of what you're...
Building soil. Growing soil, same thing. Farming soil.
And it almost doesn't sound right. But then like you begin to explain, like you have to get the base of it. And that's a lot what you're saying. Like with the grass, you're growing soil.
Yeah, that's another thing that you're doing when you're managing your plants correctly. You're building soil in them, and
building soil, that makes more sense.
Because you're holding a lot of times. If you're overgrazing stuff, remember how I was telling you about when the plants are short up top, the root systems are short below also. So that means with short root systems and small plants, you're not able to hold as much soil in place, and those roots are putting organic matter down into the ground so that when they do get eaten and the plant shrinks back, all those roots that were in the ground, those roots don't just disappear. It just stops feeding them because it's not using the total extent of them anymore.
And we can see the difference in the soil and the grass on our own property because there is, Paul and Victoria lately have mowed a path for me so I can walk because I like to go for my...
And we keep that low all the time.
So I do voice my complaints, and I'm like, Paul, the grass, because I walk in chanclas or sandals all year round. I try to do it during the winter even. I'm that foolish, but when there's snow, I can't. But anyways, my whole point is I like to have the grass short on my path because I don't like to have wet grass or grass in general on my feet. And so we keep it low, and we've noticed the difference between the surrounding grass and on my path. There's more soil runoff. Like you can see like the
that's a good
erosion.
Erosion.
Thank you. Like it falls off. There's more patches where it's bare. There's not that much grass growing.
Yep.
And it's because I'm walking and I'm treading on it, but also it's kept short, so the roots aren't very deep. So just in that, we've noticed a difference. There's parts where he has to add wood chips for me because it becomes too slick, especially when it rains because there's not enough grass. So that's one thing I've noticed even on just our property itself. And you can see the lusciousness too. Like there has been times where he's run the sheep on my path and I'm like, no, I walk on that. That's my path. I use it every day. Like, please don't do that.
But we are running a farm here.
So there is that's backstage drama. But anyways, my whole point is you can see the difference because the sheep don't go on my path. You can see the difference on the color of the grass, on the surrounding grass and my grass. I am very what's the word? It's my grass, but possessive over my path. So there is I do fight, and I'm like, no, this is my path. I know it doesn't look as good as the surrounding soil, but this is my path. My whole point is you can see the difference in the grass and the soil and just the firmness of it.
Yeah, that's a good observation, and we'll close with that. So what she was really trying to say is she's contributing to the destruction of the soil in certain areas for personal reasons. So yeah, but it was a very good observation. It's a very drastic contrast, like she says, that it's very easy to see, and that abuse is not beneficial.
But I'm like, go.
So we're learning. We hope you guys are learning. We hope to keep you guys inspired. Spaghetti's ready. She's got her glass of wine.
Oh, so Anna was doing dinner when she first started the live stream, and I asked her what she's having. So she has spaghetti. She has a glass of wine poured and a great live chat.
Thank you so much, Anna.
I'll take notes for the replay. Oh, thank you, Anna. So thank you, everyone that joined us.
Yeah, we'll make a comment here. If you're watching this on the replay and you have any questions, if something sparked a question or a comment, make sure you leave that in the comments. We're really trying to reiterate that if you don't make a comment, like, we appreciate your thumbs up. But even a thumbs up doesn't tell us how we affected you. Was this information pertinent to you? Did it help? Even if you just said, I watched the video, then we know who's watching, and that's beneficial. So just keep in mind, any comment that you leave on a video is very helpful to us. And we read every single comment. I literally go through and I sort the comments, and I go under there and I sort it by those that I have not replied to, and I reply to every single comment. Because that feedback is what lets us know, what we should be talking about, what's important, what do people need information on, and the direction that it's a very good gauge for us. Let me just put it that way. So keep that in mind when you are watching the videos. Give us a comment, even if you say, hey, you could have done this better, you didn't explain this, you rambled on, which I'm doing right now. But we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks again for joining us. Bar run.